Welcome, welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. It is July 3rd for those of you who are on the live stream. Tomorrow's Independence Day here in the States, which is pretty fun. I hope you guys are planning something amazing with your family. Those of you who are here in the States, which is most of my audience, I'm going to be taking the day off tomorrow, and it's going to be delightful. Tonight, we are jumping in to a sad case. Sad case. It is the murders of 6-year-old little Maurice and 9-year-old Jaden, who are the sons of this woman, 32-year-old Tiffanie Lucas of Kentucky. Now, the stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight, guys, is kind of disturbing. So I just kind of want to give you a heads up on this. Okay? We're going to be talking about children here, which is particularly hard. What has happened in the news as far as Tiffanie Lucas's case is it appears that they're moving toward a plea deal, which shouldn't surprise any of us, right? I mean, plea deals happen all the time. In fact, in my county, it's 99.8% of the time. And I think that is the case in most places where a case goes to plea. Well, the prosecutors want it because they don't want to have to go through a trial. Defense sometimes wants it because they've got a guilty client and they're trying to get something better for them than what they would get if they went to trial. So that's the news, and we're going to get into it. But first, let me just remind you guys, if you want to get my attention in the chat, go ahead and put GF in your comments, and that will help me when I filter things off to see any comments that you guys have directly for me, not just for the rest of the live stream. Okay, what I've prepared for you tonight is this presentation. We're going to go through the case. Going to go through everything that we know. Everything might be a little bit of a stretch. Everything that fits into this, I guess, my time limits here, right? But we're going to look at these two boys, Maurice Baker and Jaden Howard. Maurice is the little guy, 6 years old. Jaden is the older brother, age 9. These two young men lived with their mom, Tiffanie Lucas, in what I consider to be an upscale neighborhood. I've looked at pictures of it. I've looked at maps of it. It looks like a pretty nice place. It's a place called Shepherdsville, which is in Bullitt County, Kentucky. These little boys were described as bright. They were energetic. They were loved by their family. They were both part of the community, and they were active in those activities. A little 6-year-old, like that's a first grader, and a 9-year-old is a fourth grader, right? So I mean, this reminds me a lot of our kids. We right now they finished the school year, they're on their summer break, but a fourth and a second grader. So just two little innocent kids born into the circumstances they were born into, and kind of moving along with life, right? Just bright, good little boys. Tiffanie Lucas, on the other hand, didn't have her stuff together, let's say. 32 years old. She was a single mom. I looked up to see what her profession was, and she was listed as an entrepreneur, and she had a restaurant for a time, or like just an eatery of some type. But really the way that she was making money, according to her family members, is she was probably an escort. So this quote just came from a video that I watched. Michelle Rice, Maurice's stepmother, mentioned that they had seen evidence indicating Lucas's involvement in escorting. She said, "We've seen things like that. I believe she left her email up before, and she left her email up on a computer she was using, and it was in her emails and stuff like that." She continued, she never had a job. I mean, how else do you make money without a job? And so, I mean, there are a lot of people involved in sex work in the United States. I personally don't think that, I think that is a dangerous thing to do. And shouldn't be doing those kinds of things, especially if you got little boys. But that's my morals and my ethics. Anyway, that is what she apparently was doing for a living. Rice, who is the boy's stepmother, also mentioned that people who knew Lucas were aware of her involvement in escorting and told the media that it was somewhat known. It was an open secret within her social circles. And so while it hasn't been explicitly stated, the context provided by Ms. Rice suggests that Lucas's financial instability, lack of steady employment may have driven her to seek income through escorting. That appears to be what it is that she did. Okay. Now, the other thing about Tiffanie and Lucas, while she was presenting herself as kind of a happy mom of two boys on social media, she had issues. She had some involvement with Child Protective Services, and she had some issues with drugs as well, which we will get into. Now let's talk about the actual incident, okay? Maurice and Jaden, they were found shot by a neighbor. They were found by a neighbor, shot in the head inside their home on November 8th, 2023, so not very long ago. They were picked up by EMTs. They were taken to the hospital where they later died. Reportedly, Lucas allegedly, let's say, shot both boys in the head at close range, and this shooting occurred inside the home. Lucas was definitely there. She claimed when she called, well, she didn't call 911, but she claimed when she talked to officers that it was an accident. Of course, her story changed a little bit over time as well. So this is what witnesses stated. Witnesses said that Tiffanie Lucas left the house and laid down on the driveway of one of her neighbors. Of course, the neighbors were like, what are you doing laying on our driveway? And she apparently told them that her kids were inside the house dying. So the husband went inside Lucas's house to check on the children, found them with gunshot wounds. He immediately called 911 to report the incident. And as I said before, police and EMS arrived on the scene pretty shortly after the call. They rushed them to the hospital, but they both died from their injuries. Let's see. That one, I doubled that up accidentally, I guess. Sorry about that, guys. Man, doubled it twice. Sorry about that. Is that correct? No. Oh, no. This is the evidence of premeditation. Sorry, I confused myself there for a second. Okay, both boys were shot in the head. It's a deliberate... It couldn't have accidentally happened that both boys were shot in the head, okay? So that indicated the intentional harm rather than some kind of accident. Neighbors reported hearing 4 gunshots fired within 30 seconds. So that suggests, of course, that it was purposeful, it was controlled, rather than some kind of accident. And then the gun was found on the bed, indicating it was placed there deliberately after the shootings, rather than like being dropped like her story was telling. Colonel Alex Payne, who is the chief deputy of the Bullitt County Sheriff's Office, when he was talking to the media, one of the videos that I saw of him talking was like, I don't know what happened, if she had a mental breakdown, if she's got some mental health issues, if she has some substance abuse issues, if she's pure evil, or if it's a combination of 2 or more of those. I don't know. The ultimate result, though, is the same. The boys were killed, right? And the quote he said was, the boys were shot in an area that would not be survivable for anybody. So now Lucas, she changes her story after the fact. She's like, first she said it was an accident. It was an accident. Then she changed her story and says, no, I was being manipulated through social media, and someone had given her a gun and was coercing her into killing her boys, apparently. And we've talked a lot about coerciveness over the last couple of weeks here on the channel with the Micah Miller case specifically. I really hate claims of what appear to be like what is that story? Chicken Little, right? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. I hate it when people complain of coerciveness because it minimizes the coerciveness of others. But that's what she said. First she said it was an accident. Then she said, no, people are manipulating me. Somebody made me do this. They coerced me into do it, but investigators didn't find any evidence that supported her claims. Now, this just happened in November. I know it seems like it's been a long time that we're in July, but it hasn't been that long. So, getting into her past, Tiffanie Lucas was arrested for drug-related charges in 2018. She ended up pleading guilty to those charges. She was sentenced to 30 days in jail. Family members and acquaintances had expressed concerns over Lucas's drug use over the years. So she really only has that one arrest, but apparently there were issues with the drugs over the years. They believed that her addiction was ongoing, which it always is when there's an addiction, right? Addiction never goes away. And so even if there weren't arrests made in the last 5 years, family members, friends, concerned people really believed that there was a lot of drug use. All right, so that alleged drug use, or let's not say alleged, she was convicted of it. She pleaded guilty, right? So her drug use had previously led to her children having been removed from her custody. It is unclear what those circumstances were. Of course, those files are sealed, so we don't know exactly what the circumstances were where she got the children back, but she did get them back. We don't know what measures were taken. Like, was she on some type of probation? Did she have to have drug tests? Those kinds of things, we have no idea. But despite all that drug use, if you go to her social media account, and I thought about showing some videos here, but I'm just not going to glorify her because she has kind of glorified herself. So despite her issues, despite her drug use, she maintained a presence on social media that kind of just said to the world, hey, look at me. I am a successful and loving and doting mother. We do fun things. And that is the facade that she put up for people to see. Again, kind of supporting her mental health issues. She claimed that she was manipulated through Facebook, the internet, or Wi-Fi to commit the shootings. She said after her arrest that she was in a really bad spot, and she made statements implying that there was some force that was trying to manipulate her into doing what it is that she did. It's kind of a crappy defense, if you ask me. Obviously, the actions of shooting her boys and then laying down in her neighbor's driveway do kind of raise questions about her mental state. Going back to the colonel, right? Was she pure evil? Was she mentally unwell? Was it a combination of the two? I think probably it was a combination of the two. Of course, the result is all the same, right? Some family members of Tiffanie Lucas have suggested that she may have had mental health issues that were undiagnosed or untreated, and it caused her to behave erratically, caused her to make poor decisions. And guys, you're gonna judge me for this one, but I don't even know if I should say this out loud because I've never been in that position. It's kind of judgy of me. Maybe I'll just hold that one back. But anyway, she was making poor decisions, and I think it's pretty obvious looking at the results of her decisions and also seeing kind of her social media persona, right? Now, people have been complaining that there have been some delays in the case against Tiffanie Lucas. I personally don't think that is the case. I mean, crying out loud, it's only been, what is that, 9 months, right? Not even 9 months. Oh my goodness, I made a mistake here. She was arrested the day of the shootings, not May 2nd. Sorry about that. This was in November. She was charged with, oh my goodness, anyway, she was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and she was charged with possession of a firearm. And then during her first court appearance, one of the things that was kind of a complaint that people made was that she appeared completely emotionless and she gave no statements, which reminds me, let's see if I have this still up. I do. This is an article from the New York Post. Let me bring you guys over here real quick. Let me fix this. Crying out loud. I am having all sorts of technical issues today. Give me a second. Screen share. Let's go over here. There we go. Okay. This is from December 12th, but one of the things that it's in the very beginning. Let me just read this. Accused murderer Tiffanie Lucas looked stone-faced as she appeared in court charged with shooting dead her 2 young sons, infuriating relatives of the slain boys, including one hoping to see her put to death. The 32-year-old Kentucky mom kept a serious expression throughout her appearance Monday as she pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of capital murder for the boys aged 9 and 6. Let's remember these boys. She just looks like she doesn't have a care in the world, one of the dead boys' aunts, Bobby Baker, told WAVE after the hearing. I think her sitting in jail for the rest of her life is a cakewalk, she said of Lucas's unemotional expression. Ultimately, the only fitting penalty is for her to be put to death, the aunt said. So, I mean, this has been one of those cases, obviously, where emotions are definitely running high. Let's get back over to the presentation. So, during her first court appearance, she was pretty stoic, emotionless. Preliminary hearings took place in the following months, where evidence was presented by the prosecution. This is the way it happens in preliminary hearings. Just if you guys aren't aware, there are basically 2 different kinds of processes to establish probable cause. One is the indictment process. One is the preliminary hearing process. So in Kentucky, they are going through the preliminary hearing. So in those hearings, the prosecution gets to present to the judge everything that they have that establishes probable cause. The defense does not have a preparation for this. They don't have discovery, anything like that, typically. I know that like in Corey Richin's case they do, but typically they don't have everything. They have the opportunity to ask questions of witnesses and so forth too. But these proceedings can be long. They can be multiple days sometimes. But that is what happened, a preliminary hearing. Now she was, I think she was originally given a $2 million bail, and then she was denied bail. She had there were concerns of her being a flight risk. At the request of her defense attorney, she underwent some psychiatric evaluations to determine her competency. These evaluations, what they do, defense attorneys of guilty people would like nothing more than their client to be actually crazy, right? So that's why they do those things. But Yeah. Okay. The prosecution strategy, as far as I can tell, has been focused on establishing her intent, establishing that she did this premeditatedly. They have the forensic evidence. They have the autopsy reports and all that stuff from the scene. They also presented evidence of her drug use, her mental health issues, and their argument is this was not accidental or did not have lack of intent. Obviously, the defense is arguing that, hey, she wasn't in her right mind. She was. They're actually using her story of, hey, I was being manipulated as evidence that she was not in her right mind, hoping that they might be able to negotiate down some of these charges. They also, of course, bring up her history of drug abuse and how that may have changed her ability to actually make good decisions. Now, here is the thing that is happening recently is that there is a proposed plea deal on the table. And the deal is that Lucas would plead to second-degree murder instead of facing trial for first-degree murder. Of course, second-degree murder, the difference between first and second-degree murder in most states is not actually much, right? You have to have intent, malicious intent, but second-degree murder typically doesn't include malice aforethought, like you didn't plan it. So that's the difference between first and second. Now, first-degree murder would be a capital offense. She is facing the death penalty on this one. A second-degree murder would give her maybe a long prison sentence that she might be able to get time off for good behavior or something like that. Let's see. Her family have had mixed reactions. Some of them have said, from what I've read, that they would like not to go through the process of the trial. Others are like the one that I read before, are like, no, put this woman to the needle, right? They've not been happy about that, but prosecution has kind of defended their position in that they want to spare everybody the horror of going through a very protracted and ugly, horrific legal process. And having gone through, having witnessed as a reporter several of these cases where I've watched the families of victims in court have to see things like their loved one, like photographs of the crime scene and details of what happened to them, those sorts of things. This is not something that people want to go through. I'm not a person typically who would like I typically don't like plea bargaining, but in cases where we could get this woman right here locked up for probably the rest of her life, maybe when she's an old woman she might be able to get out, that sometimes is okay with me too. Though I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, because we're talking about little boys here, right? Talking about little ones, 6 years old, 9 years old. That is maybe life in prison isn't enough. Lay says, I was horrified when I heard this story. Yeah. Let's see. Ray says, I finally made it on time for once. Well, welcome, Ray. Glad you're here. Let's see. You don't have to be an escort. You could have a sugar daddy. There are no sex relations included. Just be honest. From what okay, yeah, I stand corrected. However, from what I understood, sex work is what she was involved in, from what I read. It is true that not all escorts are sex workers. I get it. Let's see. Jamie, ugh, those babies. Sure enough. Yep. She tried to say that people on Wi-Fi, Facebook. Yeah. And they are beautiful boys. They were beautiful boys. I mean, look at those beautiful faces. So happy and so sweet. Jamie says she didn't deserve them. Yeah. Let's see. Kelly Miller, she made a choice. No one forced her to choose dope over her children. So, like, I appreciate what you're saying, Kelly. I have a little bit more nuanced of a view at this point in my life. And it came from investigating cases, if I can bring you over to the website for a second, investigating cases like Amanda Winkowski, which was back in 2008. Amanda Winkowski was a heroin addict, and she was a sex worker, and she was doing things that she shouldn't have been doing, and she was doing dangerous things. You can see her entire case file here, guys. There's so much. But also, she made one mistake when she was young, and once she had made that mistake, then she was addicted. She was hooked, and I mean, yeah, people who are addicted to drugs do make that first choice. Sometimes they don't. The vast majority of people who are on opioids were addicted because of a prescription, a surgery, a painkiller, something like that. So, like, I have a little bit more nuanced of a view here. However, I mean, these boys did have a dad. They did have a stepmom. Tiffanie could have made the decision to not have custody of her children, knowing that she had these issues. She could have done that. But I appreciate your comment, Kelly. I don't mean to be disrespectful when I disagree with you in part. But yeah. Jay says, too many people using mental health as an excuse for doing horrible things. She was a functional adult who could have asked for help. She appeared to be functional anyway. I mean, she was living in a nice house. She was making a living. So I don't know though. Again, I might be a little more nuanced on this, right? Like, people have mental health disorders often are the last ones to know they have mental health disorders, or those who are in a bad episode, or they don't understand they're in a bad episode. But I would certainly agree with you, Jay, that when they're right, when they're not in an episode, when their head is right, they should be able to make better choices. And it does make me sad. Heather Nealon says, this reminds me of Casey Anthony. Okay, well, that goes back to the comment that I decided not to make. When I was looking at, if I go back over, looking at photos like this of Tiffanie Lucas, right? She is a person that seems to be choosing herself. Let me get over to a couple, herself over her children. And that does remind me of Casey Anthony too, right? Like, she had enough, allegedly, because she was not convicted, but whatever. She had enough of the single mom life and having to have these two boys. She was just going to get it over with so that she could be free. Maybe that's what was happening. Maybe. Let's see. She had a smug, snotty look on her face, if you ask me. Yeah, that is pretty much the way she has looked in court. Every video that I've seen, that she just looks pretty smug. It's true. Scrolling down. Mark Benson. Susan Smith, South Carolina mom, killed her 2 sons in 94, is up for parole in November of 2024. 30 years. My point is, in relation to this case, is no parent who kills their child or children should ever get parole. Yeah, I mean, I had a, like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just kind of, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about this, right? 30 years is not equal to the amount of years that she took away from those 2 boys, right? She took away, let's say those boys made it to 80, right? She took away 160 years of their life, minus the, let's say, 140 years of their lives. Why not get 140 years? You know? Yeah. Mark, I think I'm coming to your side because there's no restitution that can be made here. There's no restitution that can be made. And there are things like, again, I have more of a nuanced view of the death penalty, I guess. I think there are things that where you just kind of have to pay for it. If you are, I guess for me, the line of demarcation is, if you are just criminally minded, evil, mean, and you're taking lives, I think the death penalty makes sense. If you are an addict, if you are a mentally unstable, mentally unwell person, and you did the same thing, maybe take that off the table and maybe make it life in prison without parole. I think I'm with you, Mark. I think I'm with you. That's good. And Jamie agrees. You're probably not alone in that sentiment. I'm not sure. I think everything hinges on the inmate. Yeah, and Jamie, by the way, guys, for those of you who don't know, is somebody who is completely sympathetic, completely empathetic to the plights of those who are in the justice system, especially those who got there through drug addiction. And yeah, Jamie comes from a place of real sympathy and real empathy. It's something I really admire about her. Nobody that commits crimes are in their right mind. So that it's a good comment with all. It's a good comment. I just think that there are some people who are, maybe through their experience, maybe through their observation, maybe they're born mean, I don't know. But they just don't they don't value human life. And you might be saying, well, that makes it so that they're not in their right mind. But that is their best mind, I guess is how I would say it, right? People who don't value human life. So there are people who are just criminally minded, who are just like, no, I'm more important to me than you are important to me. And if you get in my way and you die, that's on you. They think in those kind of terms, right? Those people are just evil people. Those are the kinds of people I think, like in the Jocelyn Nungarai case. They're just evil people. And then there are people who are sick, who they do value human life, but because of some sickness aren't able to make a good choice. I don't know if I'm even right. I may be completely wrong about this, but that's what it feels like to me. I guess that's what I'm saying. Bring this up. Thank you for that comment with all. Let's see. Tiff Knox. What's up with all these murderous Tiffs lately? That's funny. Let's see. Blue Reader. The second son was capital murder. She had time to change her mind after murdering her first son. Okay, that is a very, very good and well-reasoned argument, Blue Reader, and one that I actually used in a jury trial to convict. I was a member of the jury. I wasn't a lawyer or anything. And I've shared this before, but in that case, it was a double homicide. It was a gang shooting. The killer shot a kid, shot him like 5 times, and then turned the gun on the second kid, shot him another several times. And I was able to convince the jury, well, not the entire jury, maybe 2 or 3 members that were holdouts, like, hey, listen, there was time for that that malice aforethought, right? There was time for that. He shot the one and then turned and shot the other. You only need a split second to establish intent. They don't have to think about it for any minimum amount of time. So yeah, Blue Reader, maybe what you're saying is correct. Maybe she was like crazy and she put the gun on one and then, having done that, made the decision to kill the second. Maybe that is the case. Blue Reader then asks, why do women always get the deals, but the fathers rarely do? I think statistically that's incorrect. I mean, the vast majority of cases are given plea deals. The vast majority. Even in violent crimes, the vast majority. Prosecutors don't want to go to trial. They want to plea those things out. But it does feel that way sometimes. I would agree that. Blue Reader then asking, if she were a 50-year-old fat woman, would she be considered for a plea? My argument is yes. Just statistically speaking, the vast majority. In my county, there are about 1,200 cases that are brought into the justice system in a year, or I should say that are dispensed with in the justice system every year, about between 1,100 and 1,200, and about 8 to 9 of those go to trial. The vast majority of the defendants are men. So, yeah, I don't know that her looks, in fact, her looks for me, it looks like she's trying too hard to me, but that's just me. I don't know that her looks make a difference. I think that they want to play these things out. Who are we to judge her? We didn't walk in her shoes. Well, I mean, listen, the way I look at this, Monica, and this is just my respectful disagreement with you, is that we have to be able to make good judgments, right? Each one of us is a citizen and may be called to sit on a jury where we will be the judge of the facts of a case and the character of the witnesses and the credibility of the witnesses, right? We should indeed be able to make good judgments. Now, yeah, I guess that's where I'll stop. We definitely didn't walk in her shoes. If she was addicted to drugs, I have sympathy for her because I've seen so many people who are. For me, it's not an excuse to kill your children. You know, there was a case here in my county of like, there was a young woman with a little boy and living in like squalor in this basement of this trap house in a city in my county, who was also an addict. Her significant other was also an addict, and she was doing her very best to work, to earn a living, to dig themselves out of the hole that they were in. While she was at work one day, her significant other allegedly beat her child to death, stuffed him in a bag, and hid him in a corner of the basement where he thought nobody would look. Now, I have sympathy about the drug addiction. I do. But that doesn't excuse the behavior, right? It doesn't excuse the behavior. That man who did that, allegedly, if he is convicted, needs to pay the price for that. It was just a little boy. It's like a little 2-3-year-old boy. So, yeah, Monica, I appreciate your comment, and I respectfully disagree. We can make judgments. We just need to make sympathetic, empathetic when we can, righteous judgments. And I'm using righteous in like the non-religious connotation. Like they need to be right. We need to make our judgments right. Thank you, though. Patty, I don't know what I'm off base on, so because these are delayed, so I don't know. Let's see. Autumn, most don't choose to be an addict, but there's a difference from being an addict and being an addict that chooses to hurt people. That's a good comment. Diana says, Gavin, I have no faith in the Bullitt County court system. It is very corrupt. I know a family who is very involved in that system, and they are very blessed that it didn't turn out like this. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. That actually brings up a crusade that I have been on pretty recently, in my state, which is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Our judges in our judicial system are elected. And sometimes they're appointed, but when they get to the end of their term, then they have to be reelected. But this is what happens. They're elected to a 10-year term. And then I'm talking about the Court of Common Pleas where this kind of stuff happens. They're elected to a 10-year term, and then they can be either be, what is the word for it? Retained or not. It's just a yes or no vote. Should this judge be retained? Yes or no? And I don't think that people pay close enough attention to those elections. I really don't. Without naming names, there was a case here in my area again where the judge, who, in my opinion, is a good person, did their level best as a judge, but prior to being a judge was a district attorney who made some critical errors that ultimately, I mean, it's not her fault. It is the perpetrator's fault. But a man who should have been in prison for way longer than he was got out and shortly thereafter murdered like a 70-year-old woman. So those kinds of elections, the retention or not elections, I think a lot of people just go, yep. Because in my county, if you get elected as a judge, you are a judge for 30 years, 40 years. And so I wish people would pay more attention to that, Diana. And I hope in your county, if you live in Bullitt County, I guess, I hope that you can convince the electorate to take it seriously. Let's see. Blue Reader says, I worked in re-entry. It's the soft people they detest the most. They are looked at like, I don't know what that, I mean, I know what that word means, but I don't understand what you're saying, Blue Reader, exactly. And Quinette Burnett. As a therapist, mental health help is not an easy thing to come by, especially if you are lower income. Lower socioeconomic individuals seem to be the ones that really need it. What an interesting comment. Yeah, I guess I don't have the standing or the expertise to quibble, but it seems like I am a professional quibbler. So just to play devil's advocate here, at least in my county, which of course it might be an anomaly, it might not, I don't know. There are so many services that are available, especially to low income people, that I find it difficult to believe that it's all that difficult to find help. I could be wrong. Obviously, Anquinette, if you're a therapist, you're probably way more qualified. Your comment is carries way more weight than mine. But I know, again, this is anecdotal, but I know of a person in my area. I pick him up from time to time. I see him like hitchhiking or something. He's mentally unwell. He thinks that the rest of the world is mentally unwell. I don't think that it is that he can't find services. I think that he is just mentally unwell and doesn't want the services because he thinks that the rest of the world's crazy. He thinks I'm crazy. So I don't know. But thank you for that comment, Anquinette. Again, your comment has greater weight than mine. Let's see. Let's see. Not sure what that means. Chloe's mom. Everyone wants to blame opiates from a doctor as the problem. It's not. There are people out there with chronic pain that can't be cured with surgery and can't get pain relief and do not have addictive behavior, I think is what you're saying. I think that everyone wants to blame opiates from the doctor as the problem. It's not. There are people out there with chronic pain that can't be cured with surgery, can't get relief, and do not have, I think you want to say, addictive behavior. I think the data probably contradicts what you're saying, Chloe's mom. I think the vast majority of addicts start with a prescription to themselves, of opiate addicts. Of course, there are a lot that, like, uncountable. Well, they're probably countable, but many that that try a pill at a party or do something along those lines. They try it one time and then they're hooked. But I think the data supports, or the data support that most opiate addicts start with a prescription. I might be wrong. Anquinette adds, I'm currently dealing with a family member with addiction. He truly believes he is not doing anything wrong as a parent. DSS has been called, but is going to take some more trauma for them. Oh, that's sad. Christy, being an addict doesn't make you hurt children. That's inside you already. Drugs might bring it out, but it's already there. I don't know that that's the case. I don't have a good response to that. That doesn't make, I mean, I hear that kind of argument. Like, I hear that kind of argument from time to time, and I guess I just don't buy it. I think that a person that is an addict, in combination with either mental health issues or with evil, like you're saying, can hurt children. I think it's possible that they're not evil, and it still happens. They still should be held responsible for it. Let's see. Giselle CD says, from the picture, she didn't look like she was in a low income bracket. If you're broke, you don't have a gym membership, etc. Yeah, she lived in a neighborhood that I thought was pretty upscale. Like, nice home. Nice car, nice clothing, nice jewelry, going out, going to the gym. I don't think she was low income at all. I don't think that was her problem at all. Norma just says narcissist. Could be. Could be. Chloe's mom says, I've watched, I think that's father-in-law suffer from chronic back pain after surgery and can't get a pain reliever and wants to die. Those people definitely are out there. And I'm very sorry for your father-in-law. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? He can't get pain relievers because so many people are abusing their prescriptions. And so doctors don't want to write scripts. It's tough. Big Tiff Dog says, I don't like the word evil because I think it takes away accountability. Yeah, well, I'm not assigning that evil to anyone else. Like, I don't think they're possessed by demons or, something like that. I just think that they are wrong. So I understand, yeah, the word evil does seem to have more religious connotations where we blame, the devil or demons or whomever for the evil acts. No, I'm just saying they're just wrong. I'm a fan and student of the American Old West, and there were just people out there doing horrible, heinous things to other people because that's what was in them. And I call that evil. But I don't mind that you don't like that word, Tiff. That's a good point. Let's see. Tiff Knox, it's called birth control. Be responsible. If you don't want kids, don't have them. That is something I'm going to be on Tiff Knox's side on this one. Like, you guys know I've got a family. Kimberly and I have 5 kids. We've always been responsible. We have always had children when we wanted them. Every single one of them were planned and welcomed into our family. And we did not have children when we didn't want them. And case in point is we have an almost 10-year gap between child number 3 and child number 4 because we were like, we can't afford more right now. It's not the responsible thing to do. It does baffle, it boggles the mind to me that so many people still accidentally get pregnant. It boggles my mind. Maybe that's like a combination of alcohol and just bad choices. I don't know, but it does boggle my mind. Jay says, if you saw her social media posts, you'd see she was incredibly self-involved, apparently superficial. Everything was look at me. That's how I read it as well. Panda Ann, Gavin, do you think people are born evil or is it more a nature nurture type thing? The world is getting scary. No, I don't think that people are born evil. I don't really truly believe that. I think it's possible, but I don't think it happens. I think that every baby that is brought into this world is a gift that is beautiful and innocent, should be treasured, should be brought up in love, in a family, in a way that will give that child the best opportunity for health, happiness, and success. I don't think that they're born evil. Is it possible? Maybe. Let's see. I'll keep on going here. Monica, you're an early education teacher, works with social workers. Okay. Good. This is an interesting comment. A really good comment. because Anquinette, I live in an area that long before we moved here, but was an oil area. It was oil rich, so much money, so many jobs. From the C-suite on down, there were just jobs, 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 jobs. And about 30 years ago, those jobs moved to other states, to North Dakota and to Texas and Louisiana, Oklahoma, places like that, North and South Dakota, Montana. And there was a giant economic depression, and that time frame coincides with the opiate wave, like an epidemic passed through this area shortly thereafter. So yeah, and the area is still trying to recover from that. Yeah. That's good. Okay, I'm gonna skip down. You guys have some great comments. My neurologist said opioids are not meant for chronic pain. You know, it's funny though. They were definitely marketed that way for a long, long time. I agree they're not for chronic pain, but they were marketed that way. Autumn, you're awesome. I love it when you share your story. Autumn's addiction started at the dentist, and she's been clean for 5 years, which is amazing. Keep going down, you guys. Got a lot of comments here. I think I might call it. I think I might call that. I mean, we're coming up on an hour. We've kind of beat this horse, right? But I wanted to keep these pictures up, Maurice and Jaden, as long as we could, because these are our victims. These little boys lost their lives. They lost their future. They lost their future family. They lost their future successes, their future struggles, their future failures, the ability to overcome. They lost all of that when their lives were taken, prosecutors say, by this woman, their very own mother. We'll keep an eye on this case, and we'll see what happens. I think that probably a plea bargain is in, I mean, it's more likely than not. Okay? That's what I think. Guys, we're going to call it. Thank you very much for joining me. Remember, you can always find me on my website, gavinfish.com. Links are down in the description below. Also, please join us over on Facebook. If you go to my website and you click on the little fishy up in the corner, this little guy right there, that will take you over to the fish tank. We've got like 1,800 folks in the fish tank now. So if you're on Facebook and you like to chat with like-minded true crime aficionados, the fish tank is the place to do it. While you're on my website, remember I now have a blog. It's more kind of like news posts than a weblog, but I post about true crime stories, and so please check me out there, or check me out on Facebook, Twitter, all the socials. I'm all over the place. With that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Have a very happy Independence Day, and a safe one at that. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.